We talk about love bombing as a manipulative strategy of narcissists who will later discard you. But sometimes an irrational outpouring of intensity and devotion is a sign not that your partner is going to leave you, but that they are unstable, completely dependent on you for everything, and about to start guilting you into taking care of them forever. My letter today is from a woman I'll call Sherry, and she writes, "Hello, Anna. I've been dating my boyfriend for a year now. We're both 62 years old, previously married, and neither of us have children. We met online through Match and then in person. We had a very romantic first meeting under a giant Christmas tree. It was fun and exciting. He kept using the word magical, which I now cringe at. He told me he loved me within 24 hours of meeting. He purchased personalized license plates that said his name and my name forever within 6 weeks of meeting. I told him he was moving way too fast, and I was a little freaked out, but I was really enjoying our time together, so I ignored the obvious red flags. I hoped he'd lighten up in his intensity as we got to know each other. I believed him to be genuinely kind, loyal, and funny, which I feel are hard qualities to find in a man these days." I'm going to circle that with the fairy pencil and come back to that. I'll read Sherry's letter all the way through. I'm going to circle things that I want to make sure that I discuss in particular when I respond to this letter. All right, let's read it all the way through. So, she says, I continued to see him. We both have a history of getting in relationships too fast. I did not have a crappy childhood, but he did. His mother was cruel and both emotionally and physically abusive. My family has some emotional dysfunction, but overall I had a happy childhood. It's very obvious that he has CPTSD, though, which I learned of when I went searching for help 2 months into our relationship. But I knew it wasn't my job to fix him. 2 months into dating, I came down with COVID and wound up in the intensive care unit in critical condition for 11 days. He also became ill, but refused to go to the doctor, so he stayed at my condo to care for my cats while I was in the hospital. I was very grateful for that, but at the same time concerned that he didn't seem to care for himself. He's very comfortable in victim or martyr roles. When I got out of the hospital, I wasn't the feisty woman he met under the tree, and he accused me of talking to somebody else while in ICU because he felt I wasn't the same. I sent him home. I was still very ill, and my focus was on getting better. He actually said he thought we would have this magical moment when they wheeled me out of the hospital. What? She says. I barely knew my name after being in the intensive care unit and near death. It was an extremely traumatic experience for me, and all he wanted was magic. I was appalled. Yeah. After that, I told him I couldn't continue to see him unless he got help. I connected him with a local therapist, and he did go consistently for a couple of months, but like you speak of in your videos, it made him worse. He found himself sobbing and completely dysregulated after a session and with no tools to deal with the emotions that were coming up. That's when I introduced him to your videos. Later, we purchased your dating and relationship course. I was impressed by his desire to be healthier, even though traditional therapy wasn't for him. I really felt compassion for him and was sad he had been through so much. I had hope he'd become more aware of why he had such negative behaviors and address them. I listened to your video for those of us who are in relationships with CPTSD partners. I gave him more patience and time than I normally would because of it. I have belonged to Al-Anon for over 16 years, worked the steps, and have a sponsor who feels he isn't good for me. I've also gone to traditional therapy as needed since my 30s. I have my own share of complex PTSD from being married 22 years to a diagnosed narcissist. I know I'm slipping back into my codependency, which I've worked so hard to be better at. My boyfriend feels my boundaries, like don't yell, are mean. He doesn't have any friends that he does things with. He'll speak of close friends, but I've never met one in an entire year. He focuses on me all day long, consistently tells me he misses me, and gets upset if I don't say it back to him. I've listened to hours upon hours of your videos. My hope was to help guide him to resources so we could have a less drama-filled relationship. That's all I want. I don't expect to be perfect. I don't expect him to be perfect. I have my issues too, but he is wearing me out. I'm finding I resent him. I'm feeling I don't want to tell him I love him or miss him because he constantly wants it. He can be very passive aggressive and guilts me for not feeling like him, and that makes me angry now. I don't want to feel like him. I don't feel he's healthy, yet here I am still hoping. Who's the unhealthy one, LOL? I do have to say he has gained more awareness of his behavior through your videos and course just since the summer. I have seen changes in him. He's doing daily writing, but he still hangs on to the magical thinking and is obsessed with me. If things don't feel magical every day, he wants to know what's wrong. I spend 4 out of 7 days with him, and he still pouts when I want time for the things in my life outside of him. He doesn't do anything outside of us, which I know is so unhealthy. He calls this love. I'm also dealing with my mom, who was just put into memory care with Alzheimer's. Even when he knows I'm sitting with her, he wants to hear from me, and that feels controlling. Although he loves me like no other in so many ways, which is nice, the downside of his personality is just draining and disturbing sometimes. I'm growing to resent him and have lost respect. If I even mention us breaking up or that I need time away from him, he starts crying. I've never seen a man cry so much in my entire life. Is this normal for a man with CPTSD? I don't mind him sharing his emotions and I don't mind him crying, but a man who sobs every week is too much. I really do love the kind, regulated boyfriend I met. I'm sad to think of him not being in my life, but his neediness is so unattractive and exhausting. When it's good, it's amazing, but when it's bad, well, you know, it's awful. I fear he'll harm himself if I break up. There it is. He's threatened this before. I feel ridiculous now for asking this, but could there be any hope for him at this stage of his life with his severity? Please help. Thank you for all that you do. All right, Sherry, I think I can help. This is a tough case, and I'm really glad you wrote this. Is I think I've been in both sides of this relationship before. Luckily, I'm on the other side to tell you how you get out of each side of it. All right. So you've been dating for a year now. You're 62 years old, previously married, no kids. Big romantic meeting after connecting online for the first time, and he said it was magical. He changed his license plates. So this, yeah, that is way too fast. He said he loved you within 24 hours of meeting, and you told him he was moving way too fast and you were freaked out, but you were really enjoying the time together, so you ignored the obvious red flags. Okay. And you hoped he'd lighten up, and you believed him to be genuinely kind, loyal, and funny, which I feel are hard qualities to find in a man these days. I just flagged that one because, you know, it's just so hard to find decent men or decent women out there these days. That is a trauma-driven belief that will keep you single. It may have been hard for you, but one of the reasons your relationships have been really unhealthy is because you're not healed yet. Sherry, when you're healed, you would never get together. You would never have had a second date with somebody who said he loved you in the first 24 hours, right? So you've actually been going into relationships with your own half of the, you know, unhealthy dynamic. And that's what's giving you the impression that there are no great men out there, because it's really easy to think like, I'm fine. If I would just meet the right guy, if he were just healthy, everything would be great. There must be no guys like that. They are out there, but they're not dating people with that energy. And they're not dating people who have been in a relationship for the past year because you're already taken, all right? So I want you to put that idea out of your mind that there's no men who are kind and loyal and funny. Not so. And then you both have a history of getting into relationships too fast. You didn't have a crappy childhood, but he did. His mother was cruel and both emotionally and physically abusive. Okay, that's a recipe for his behavior. So it's very obvious to you that he has complex PTSD, which you learned when you went searching for help 2 months into the relationship. Okay, big red flag is when you or anybody is searching for help for your partner within 2 months of dating them. The red flag is you. And yes, it's a red flag that they're so screwed up that you feel that this is necessary. But the red flag is that rather than going, okay, dating is to find out if this person is appropriate for me to date, and then to act as if you're their spouse and you've been with them for years and suddenly they're acting strange. It's not like that. You're seeing how it is. The act of searching for somebody else online for how to help them is inherently codependent, except if you're married to somebody, basically. I know there are exceptions and everybody will go, wait, but you get my idea here. Searching for help, giving them books, courses, any of that stuff is codependently trying to make them be an idea of them that you would like to have, that you originally had, because I don't think there's any other reason why we do that, because we're scared to leave, because we can't deal with our own feelings about leaving. So you're scared of hurting him, but I'm going to wager you're also scared of how you will feel out of a relationship. You know, when you've wanted one for a long time and you meet somebody and you think, I think this could be it. Oh, it's devastating when you just realize, no, it's not it. I have to go back to square one. I got to try again. And it's such a loss, right? And that loss can feel so big that you'll talk yourself into staying in a completely screwed up situation just so you don't have to deal with it. And I think sometimes we fix people as a coping mechanism. We just need to feel some kind of control over a situation that is totally out of control and unworkable. 2 months into dating, you got COVID so bad you were near death. You were in critical condition in the hospital. And when you got out, he imagined there would be this magical meeting, and he was disappointed that you were too tired and still unwell to, deliver this magical experience. Okay, this is where it starts getting pretty sick, all right? This is like point 2, when I just feel like, you should not be here. This is not good. I couldn't continue to see him unless he got help. And then you connected him with a local therapist. So I just want to put out there to everybody, if anybody ever makes an ultimatum to somebody that they need to get help or you won't see them anymore, let them get help. Not you will make them get help and they'll show up. You will not be satisfied with your results with that. Now, again, I make a distinction. If somebody's in your family, if you have like a lifelong commitment to them, then sometimes there is a such thing as intervening and pushing and doing, trying to save somebody's life. But when you've been dating for 2 months, you don't go try to rescue somebody and make them go to therapy and go call around for them and do that, okay? So Sherry, this is where I think you're just kind of ruining your chances of happiness, is instead of seeing reality for what it is, you're trying to go in and fix it and make it into what you want. And from the outside, it's just like really evident, like, no, that's not gonna work, okay? He did go consistently for a couple months, but it didn't help him and he was just crying. Yeah. Take it from someone who has tried to make somebody go get help. And as many people who watch know, I've back in, like 16, 17 years ago, it was a relationship after my divorce that turned out to be somebody with a drug addiction. And I didn't know about it for a few months. And when I did find out about it, I was like you, I just couldn't really face what that meant, which was the end. It wasn't just any drugs, it was heroin, okay? I needed to go. I had children, like no way could I do this, but I was trying to like bargain with reality and go, but I tell you what, if you go to this kind of treatment and inpatient this and go to this many meetings and get a sponsor, then maybe we can make it work. Like I wanted it to work so bad. He didn't want to lose me, so he pretended he was doing all that stuff. And then I turned into that girl who goes around like following him around to see if his car was in the parking lot at the meeting, and it wasn't. And then I'd be all angry. And I never again want to be in that kind of like drama, because what I was trying to do was control him so that I could be okay. And that's what codependence is. Your guy is perfectly capable of seeking help. He can find a therapist if he wants a therapist. If you were serious with you have to get help or I'm not going to see you, and I think you're done with him, I hear that. But I'm just saying, for perspective, that wasn't a real ultimatum when you went in and tried to do it for him, okay? So if you had said that and then you had stepped out of the relationship, he could decide if he wanted to do it. Now, I think that people who are as fragile as him, and I think, he may have CPTSD, but I think he may have something more than that. And I would leave that diagnosis to I'm not a therapist. So those of you who are therapists or doctors out there, please weigh in on what you think that this guy is dealing with. But what I do know is it's not workable for a relationship. No way. This is not workable. You've just been dating. Okay. And you've stayed with him for 10 months after this meltdown, and that's really rough. Okay. So then you introduced him to my videos, which, he could go online and find them. Sometimes I say to people, like, go ahead and show them a video, let them figure it out. Once they know there's a video by me, and if they like it, they will watch more videos. They can take courses if they want. The dating course is not intended to be taken as a couple. I'm just saying The dating course is for people who are single, who would like to get into a committed relationship. So I appreciate that you bought the course, and that's nice. And I think that you taking the course is going to prepare you for what's next. But I think that somehow you didn't, like the lesson of the course could not penetrate your mind because you were already in a relationship that you needed to justify. And what my course tells you is you write down what you actually need. And I know you don't need somebody who can't even be present for you when you're sick because they're trying to get magic love from you. That is not on your list. I've already seen it. No, I haven't seen your list. But I want you to write that down, that you need somebody capable of being present who can actually care for you when you're sick. I want you to write down somebody who actually is capable of going slow enough to get to know you so that you can mutually find out if you should take little baby steps towards intimacy. Because for people with CPTSD, and for what you have, you may not have CPTSD, I don't know. But you have this thing of rushing in and trying to, crap fit to a relationship and through trying to control the person and retrofit them and make them into, like Pygmalion. I'm going to make you into the sort of person I could feel proud of and feel good with. And I'm not judging you. I've done it. I've done it more than once. But I'm just telling you, like, it's a terrible road to go down. Like, go back, stop now, come back. So then you said, I'm impressed by his desire to be healthier, even though traditional therapy wasn't for him. I don't know. Nothing in your story sounds like he wanted to be healthier. He just wanted you to not leave. But I won't speak for him. He didn't write. And you felt compassion and you were sad. He'd been through so much. Yeah, it is sad. You had hoped that he could be more aware of why he had such negative behaviors and address them. But I'll tell you what, even if somebody who's suffering symptoms like him, it is so much an inside job. And I'm going to be making a video very soon about that moment of clarity when you realize, oh my gosh, everything I've ever done on my own, and even with professional help, I haven't been able to break through my symptoms. And if I can't change, I'm never going to be okay. If I had to get to that point where I would go to any lengths to recover and admit that I just, nothing I had ever tried had worked, and that it was going to somehow have to be bigger, even if I couldn't even conceive of what that was, that if that's what I needed, I think it's true for many. I think I would venture it's true for him. So you do people a disservice when you get in there and try to make their recovery go forward. It's true that by leaving somebody or suggesting something, sometimes that influences them. Sometimes leaving them, especially when they have that terror of abandonment that he's got, leaving them can sort of yank their chain and they will move around like a puppet, and do the thing that you're saying they have to do, but they can't sustain it. And that's what you're seeing. He doesn't actually want what you want for him. That's not where he is right now. And I can't really speak for who's capable of these things or why the miracle happens sometimes. Some people get lucky, but most of us, we really have to do the footwork to show up for the miracle, and other people trying to make it happen only slows that down. You say, I belonged to Al-Anon for over 16 years, so I think you know that logic about alcoholism, meddling in people's alcoholism, trying to make them get into recovery, not letting them hit their natural bottom and have the dignity of problems, and then deciding for themselves what they want to do about those problems. That is the way. That is the way. You can assist somebody, you can drive them, but you cannot make them do something. And the only situation where our culture permits us to make people do something is if they are clearly a danger to themselves or others. And beyond that, people have a certain amount of choice, and there's a reason for that. It's important for people to choose that recovery is what they want right now. All right, so you've gone for 16 years, worked the steps, and you have a sponsor who feels he isn't good for you. Okay, so I'm just going to say it. Either you need stronger meetings or you need a stronger sponsor, because the way you're talking, I'm not hearing a consciousness of what is taught. And Al-Anon is not specifically about codependence, but it certainly helps. There's a 12-step program specifically for that. Al-Anon is incredibly powerful if you're with people who are completely in the solution. And so if you are going to the trouble of working the steps and having a sponsor, sponsors they're not your boss. They can't control you or anything, but obviously he's not good for you. And I would say if you really feel that you're an Al-Anon and that you have the disease of Al-Anonism, then you're in a relapse right now. That's what's going on. So What does a person do about a relapse? They double down on the process of recovery. You go back and you read the literature. You go back and you call the sponsor every day. You go through the steps again, or, depending on how you do the steps, but you give it your all, just like you're wishing he would. Isn't that interesting? Like everything you want him to do, I think it's a cry for help from within yourself, that you need to do that. I think you're in a position to possibly get faster, happier results because you want to get better. But the toxic belief you have is that if he would change, you would be okay. If you would change, you will stop having relationships like this. Okay? Yes, you might be alone for a while, but better alone than in this kind of like soul-sucking relationship that's just maddening. I like the feistiness you have, that it's making you resentful. I know what you mean about losing respect. I've had that happen, and I think when that happens, the relationship is over. And so I don't think you've done anything wrong by losing respect, but I just ask you to honor that feeling, like stay with yourself here. This is not somebody that you have the respect for, and respect is critical to a good relationship. People must respect each other. It's totally important. All right, this guy thinks your boundaries, like don't yell, are mean. So even that you're trying to like tell me about how unfair it is. It's like if somebody yells at, or if they're yelling at you and you're just like, don't yell, and they can't stop, you have to decide if you're willing to put up with that anymore. Boundaries are your willingness to act, not what you say, it's what you do. So if you say, don't yell, and they continue to yell and won't stop, it's just not a boundary, it's a request. And requests are legitimate, but if you actually want to not be yelled at, you would have to leave somebody who can't stop. And I know it's hard. I know with Al-Anonism and codependency and everything feels like a puzzle, and you keep thinking, well, maybe if I say this, he'll do that, and then I can do this. And, I just, from the outside, I would just say, wash your hands. Just say, I'm in a relapse right now. I got to get out of this drug. I got to get out, okay? He doesn't have any friends. He speaks of close friends, but you've never met one in a year, focuses on you all day long, gets upset. So I think there's something more than CPTSD going on here. I do. I don't know what you do about it. And like I said, I'm going to leave that to the professionals, but you don't know what to do about it either. And so this fantasy that you kind of have the solution if he will just follow it, let it go, girl. Let it go. You're also dealing with your mom who was just put into memory care for Alzheimer's. And when he knows you're sitting there, he's trying to demand attention. Okay, I'm so sorry that's happening with your mom. And I think sometimes when something very scary and stressful and demanding is happening, the idea of leaving a relationship feels hard. But that's actually a very easy time to do it because you're needed right now. You're needed to help this transition of your mom. She is luckily in care, and then you can step out of that and you can get on with your life, your healing, your recovery, and your relationships, and your ability to have joy. So you say something here that is the same as what I hear again and again from many people who are in abusive relationships, and it's that when it's good, it's amazing, but when it's bad, well, it's awful. There's some version of that almost everybody in an abusive relationship says, because, there's a reason why we got together with these people who turn out to have this very bad side, all right? So yes, don't be fooled because it's good sometimes. The proof is in the pudding of how do you feel? You feel miserable. You feel drained, exhausted, disrespectful, just completely harried by this guy and afraid he'll harm himself if you leave. So that's called being a hostage. I do think what he's doing is abusive. It's emotional abuse to make threats to harm oneself if somebody leaves. I think sometimes people do that. They don't have their full faculties. They're not mentally well enough to take responsibility for what they're doing, but it is abuse. So I hope that helps you realize that you are being abused and you need to go, even if he can't help how he's behaving. One thing that you can do, because there is a concern that he would harm himself, and sometimes that is legitimate, is you can call a crisis line and ask them to guide you on the best way to do this. They will have experience. They will have professionals. You can alert them to who he is and what's going on. You can leave him with the phone number if you want. You can do the best a person who is not him can do and go save yourself. If anyone listening feels like you also are in a codependent relationship, or you think you might be, I have a video that's about the telltale signs that yes, you are, and it's right here. And I will see you very soon.